Yeah, what's up? I'll light my incense. I'm at the end of this box of matches, so it's trickier and trickier to get a light. But I love the fact that I've gotten to the end of 250 matches in here, and sometimes I end up using more than one a day, or one doesn't light or it breaks off before it lights. But this is almost 200 days of lighting incense, participating in that way. So I'm doing really good, and I hope you are too. I went to a potluck last night with some friends. It was just really nice being around them. These are people who are incredible. They're doing whatever their part of the work is and living the change. And I brought 3 out of 4 of my kids. So I spent most of the night just kind of chasing the kids around, and especially the baby. But it was so cute. There was live music and he was dancing, spinning around, and he was definitely interrupting the adults and adding a little bit of course, cuteness and everything, but also discomfort interrupting the adults. And that's a good thing. We need to be interrupted. I'm feeling much more of a confident energy than what was coming through during the last reading. The last reading we had, there was some major self-doubt that was coming through, and it felt almost, no, we're not going to take this deck today. We're going to take this one. Yeah, it just felt almost like there was something that we, you, they needed to see, and we were aware of it, but we weren't sure about what would happen if we allowed ourselves to see it. Though on the other side of seeing the thing is another level of liberation. There always is. But sometimes it can be hard to convince yourself of that in the moment and allow yourself to just be with it and to see it for what it is. So if you've been moving through that, I applaud you. Great job. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds. Like, even when I'm talking about it, I'm like, that doesn't sound nearly as intense as the feeling that I was experiencing coming through was. All right, so we have a little bit of hickory incense today. I'm very inspired by plants in general, but trees, trees. All right, here we have fox and ivy adaptability. So, what appears to be going on is that you are becoming more comfortable with moving in the ways of the fox and the ivy. What do you know about ivy? It makes it happen. It uses what it has. It's one of those plants, and there are a lot of them, but ivy is such a good example of a plant that can just work with what it's got around it. It's not like, hey, I need that over there. No, it's creeping up the side of this wall over here because that's what it has. And Fox is kind of similar, right? Have you guys watched Fantastic Mr. Fox or read the book? It's written by the same guy who wrote Matilda and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the BFG, the Twits. I read all those books when I was little and I loved them. James and the Giant Peach, there's a lot of them. Obviously, the fox is a clever guy, and part of the cleverness is not exposing your next move to the people around you. And there's always two sides of this coin. Sometimes I think that when we can get into ideas like calling in protection and not sharing everything with everybody, sometimes it can feel wrong because you're like, I want to be more expansive and I want to be more inclusive. And all of that is beautiful and wonderful. And I love where that's coming from. And I agree with you on principle. However, when you're in the process of becoming the person that you know that you really are, and you're like unprogramming yourself and you're working on getting there, there will still be people around you who are not the best fit for the vibration of who you're becoming. And that is up to you and your discernment. And it's not to say that these people are bad or evil or anything like that. It's just that their path currently is not aligned with yours. So that's one of the messages of the fox and the ivy. It's also related to being in your body in the present, because as clever and crafty as the fox is, sometimes you walk into a situation and there's just no way you could have prepared for it. The best preparation you can do is to continue to practice being present, being in your body, so that when you go into those situations, you just instinctively react. Instinctively respond, I should say. Because at first we're instinctively reacting, and that's not always a good thing. But through this process that you're going about becoming more comfortable with the idea of adaptability and needing to become adaptable, that's really huge. The world that we're stepping into is going to be more and more in need of people who are willing to be adaptable, to be changeable, and to go with whatever happens and make the best choice for them, their families, their communities. All right, so the next card that you have is Bat and Hellbore, Intuition. And I don't know much of anything about Hellbore. So if you know anything about that plant, please educate us in the comments. The bat doesn't fully rely on its eyesight, and it utilizes its other senses. And there's a lot that we can learn from that. And I think that's part of what you're going through is learning to locate where your intuition is, how to identify whether this is your intuition or whether this is something else speaking through you, more deeply connecting with your intuitive abilities. Everyone has them. They have just been demonized. And the fact that we have been taught to ignore our bodies for so long is a big part of that. And so slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. That's one of the biggest things. Keeping some kind of record, a journal. There's a reason why in a lot of different occult groups, you had to have a record of your practicing. You had to have a journal, basically. And of course, that's not the only way to do this stuff. But if you are someone who is struggling to trust your intuition and you need that back and forth with something on a piece of paper, previous versions of yourself and future versions of yourself, that can be really helpful for identifying, okay, where is the fear coming in? How is my intuition getting hijacked by this or that idea? Yeah. So that is exciting. I don't think I have to say this, but developing your intuition further just leads you to whatever it is that you desire, because you have a deeper depth in your ability to discern what is for you and what isn't for you, where you need to focus your time and energy, and where you might need to pull away a little bit, at least for now. Nothing has to be set in stone, but making decisions is good. Judgment is good. Utilizing your intuitive capacities to determine what is for you and what isn't for you is good and will be helpful to you. So great work on reconnecting with your intuition and deepening that connection. We need it. We need you in this in any way, shape, or form that you are willing to be a part of it. And I'm really excited for you. Last card is from the Herbal Astrology Oracle, and we got Death, Angel's Trumpet, Pluto, and Mars. Hello, hello. Yeah, the death of something. What can I say? We just talked about the death card from another deck. one or two videos ago, and death is a portal to another version of your life, of your reality, of who you are, and it is a portal toward your manifestations. It is a portal toward who you are trying to become, slash, who you know you already are. You're chipping away more and more at the things that aren't helpful as identities toward that larger purpose or whatever it is that you're calling in. I don't necessarily want to put a name on it. Here again, we have the bat. And then you see this literal portal right here. There is treasure at the root. There are instruments of magical power at the root of this tree. There are times when it can feel compelling to, let's use the chakra system as an example, to work on the higher chakras. However, if your root chakra is not stabilized, you don't feel safe in your body. You don't feel safe in this world. You feel something to the effect of, I should make myself smaller. I don't belong here. Nobody understands me. I don't have a right to exist. The way that I am is wrong. I'm fundamentally flawed. Original sin stuff gets in here really hard. So for root, solar, and sacral stuff, a lot of the times that's where we need to spend our focus rather than being like, hey, I want to do third eye and crown stuff. I mean, go off, see what happens. But yeah, if you find yourself losing it and going crazy, come back down to the root, girl. It's okay. And it's cycles, like we revisit. It's not like, okay, I'm done with the root stuff and now I get to move up. It's not hierarchical. That's part of checking in with your body and seeing what is it that you need today and where you need to focus your time and energy. One thing about Pluto is that his stuff, a lot of the struggle that Plutonian movement creates in our lives is related to us grasping on to previous versions of ourselves or identities that we've held about ourselves in the past. There's a familiarity there with the previous experience that we can equate with safety, but we know at our core it's not keeping us safe because usually what happens when we hold on to previous identities is that we just start having these cyclical experiences. The more you can let go of those identities without needing the dramatic disruptions that Pluto can create in our lives, the easier of a time you will have with these cycles of death and transformation because they will only return. So the other planetary ruler of this card is Mars, and Mars is about action and the masculine side of the feminine masculine polarity. If you are, well, I've been in my masculine this whole time and it's time for the feminine to take over, I don't disagree with you. And however, comma, a lot of the ways we were acting out of our masculine were the wounded masculine, the very injured, toxic, go, 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 the god of war, essentially. Because before Mars was a god of war, he was a god of protecting the tribe, the community, the homestead. He was concerned with getting what was needed, taking action to get what was needed by the feminine. So you don't have to go to war. I mean, you can if you want, that's fine. But I expect that you're tired of that by now. And there's a lot of wisdom in taking decisive action toward the life you are trying to live. And you have that capacity within you. It's within all of us. If you're watching this and you got the death card today, there's something trying to die. There's some part of you that is ready to move aside so that potentially an older part of you can emerge, something that knows what direction to move in, something that's more deeply connected to your intuitive faculties and your inner knowing of where you're going, who you are, and what is yours to do here. So that is this reading, and thank you for being here with me. I'll see you again soon. Bye.